Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. What a game to kick off what was probably one of my most eye-opening and self-reflective journeys, or should I say expeditions, in all of the years I've consumed various forms of media, and more specifically, video games. Many feel the same way.
Sandfall Interactive, y'all bodied this shit.
It's game of the year. It's definitely game of the year.
All right, that was one of the best games I believe I've ever covered. It's probably gonna win game of the year if I had to guess.
But to take this a step further, I'm gonna get a little personal as I kick off the video in order to get a certain point across. I recently graduated from university with a diploma in studio art and art history. Yep. Imagine how silly that sounds in the Big 25 in a world growing more accustomed to the utilization of AI art and its role in the culture of consumerism. You see this mindset being asserted into an assortment of spaces, from Twitter users quote-unquote fixing an honest artist's attempt to recreate renowned auteurs Hayao Miyazaki's Ghibli style.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Various influencers with a large platform believing it's time for artists to put the fries in the bag.
If you are an artist, this has been a really bad week for you. And I want to promise you that it's going to get worse.
To billion-dollar corporations taking shortcuts and using AI to produce key frameworks. As recent as last week, Disney has an artist pulling it off while simultaneously suing Midjourney for AI art. Like, dog, what? For these people, the endgame to art is only about receiving a finished product, without appreciating the process.
I don't consume the method, I consume the product.
I mean, sure, it almost seems nonsensical to pay an actual artist and to wait for days, weeks, or even months for what you can get in a moment of time with a few words put into a generator. Who cares for the process? Who cares for the artist's unique work and signature method to creation, right? They're not paying for that, only the finished product, and nothing more. This concern is even acknowledged by Renoir himself, which goes beyond the context of its narrative. He says, "Aline and I, we used to understand each other. Both of us lived for the process of creation, more so than the product. Capturing the essence of an idea, half-formed, nebulous, teetering on the edge of existence, shaping it into being. But she's changed. She no longer cares for the act of painting, only where her painting can achieve." This idea of losing the very essence of what gives art a semblance of beauty and meaning through the appreciation of the process will be overlooked by the masses in our world too. This game right here is the embodiment and antithesis of that modern ideology of consumerism with art, and I had no idea how much I needed this as an artist. Clair Obscur is a game capable of entwining the conscious human experience into its narrative. The world is quite literally built through and through, from art on a scale to where it becomes quite existential. Its story is an epic. At times, it can be a comedy to make you feel warm and cozy despite knowing there is still a harsh journey ahead.
Hi.
Oh, Verso, there you are. How did... Oh my... wow!
What is that?
Hi.
When the time comes, it'll also be a tragedy, suffering the pain of loss and the lasting effects of grief. What Sandfall Interactive has managed to create here is a game that is truly human to its very core. A game capable of symbolizing that the human passion to create art while understanding the beauty of its nature by experiencing the very process firsthand continues to thrive. Art is in fact not a linear process. It's a contemplative battle. It's a constant dance between creation and destruction. Balance and chaos. Where there's light, there must also be dark, or the present contrasts of the clear and the obscure.
Say that again?
There is a fine line with all of these, the moment where a piece could be complete or completely lost. But if you're asking me, I think it's much more engaging to be lost amidst an artwork. Expedition 33 skews your perspective of its story from the get-go. I mean, clearly the giant entity who hides behind her knees and acts with hesitance is the antagonist. And this is Gustav's story because the exposition willed it so. During this time, you're given the opportunity to bond with Gustav. From his grief, his humanity at a wit's end, his devotion, where his heart is in the fight, his poise as a flawed, but only human leader.
We have a mission!
Oh, fuck the mission! What are we gonna do, huh? Tell me. What are we gonna do? We're gonna take down the paintress, just the three of us? My gun and your sparks?
I didn't take you for a coward.
I'm not a coward.
You swore the oath. When one falls, we continue.
Yes, I know.
When one falls. When one falls. Not if, when.
And obviously we can't forget about his charismatic side.
Get out of my way!
Jeez.
As you start to grow more comfortable and settled in with the main cast of characters on the course of their journey,
It's more about...
The end of Act 1 happens, and once again, you feel lost, after losing a large part of what built a semblance of understanding to how you might have thought the story would have potentially unfolded. Yet, the narrative doesn't fail to keep us engaged. I can speak for myself and say, though a large part of the game is fun to play for its exploration, item discovery from unique interactions or boss battles, on top of its unique combative design in comparison to other turn-based games, it's not what kept me captivated or coming back to it. That would go to its story beats. How vague and mysterious the game delivers on its exposition. It's so there in your face the whole time, especially given the retrospect when replaying the game or watching somebody else's playthrough. There are multitudes of interactions like this and heavily juxtaposed sequences full of exposition spread throughout the game, most of which you won't understand until you wrap up Act 2. It's impressive, really. Being in the dark as long as you are in this game isn't executed poorly and never becomes a bore or a drag. Rather, it incites curiosity at every turn and encourages a player to engage with the narrative at hand. In a way, as you play Expedition 33 for the first time, it kind of teaches you how to engage with art to make the process more challenging and fun. Let me paint a picture for you. When you come across a work of art which is hyper-realistic, you will likely be awestruck at the very first sight of it. Such work requires a rare degree of skill and elegance and patience. You can't downplay anything of the sort. There is, however, one fundamental problem. Once you've seen it, your eyes have received all the information necessary to decipher what it is you're looking at. There's nothing to essentially challenge what the viewer perceives. That's an extremely detailed eyeball. I can see every pore on this person's face. The lighting and grayscale of this work is very convincing. In this fashion, imagine if Expedition 33's story beats were non-existent, and in turn, you're told everything that is going on from moment to moment during the experience. That would be a bore should all the information be laid out for the player without giving them the opportunity to connect the dots. So on the contrary, let's take a look at Yoji Shinkawa's artwork, renowned artist behind a lot of character design and keyframes for Hideo Kojima's titles. Obviously, in relation to detail, you can't compare it to a hyper-realistic work of art. He mostly utilizes loose pen or marker streaks in his sketches, and there's an abundance of negative space in his artwork which make for implied contours or silhouettes. He also has a tendency to use the external space as a means to create depth, like this implied wall Snake leans on. What makes Shinkawa unique in his approach to method is how much visual information he intentionally leaves out. So why is this more engaging to look at than this? He leaves the room for us to do the work and to fill those gaps with the information he does offer. Our brain recognizes what should be present, and I think, while we subconsciously have an understanding of this, the tricky part is actually knowing the technicality as to why it works. Expedition 33 succeeds in this method to storytelling, exhibiting a rather abstract composition with enough information to challenge the viewer. Another emphasis to this idea is giving the player the opportunity to be able to interpret and perceive the work uniquely from others. Hence the choice given to the player at the very end of the game to side with either Verso or Mael. It's a very divisive decision and offers room for discussion and debate amongst players. I can guarantee you this too. Everyone who has played this game reached their individual conclusions to selecting an ending for their set of reasons and unique interpretation of the story. It goes without saying, what makes a game, or an artwork for that matter, great is when it's able to achieve this level of engagement with its audience, and Sandfall did not fall short in this regard to warranting the player to interact with their canvas and posing its challenges. So here's where we find power to the creators and power to the artists. This game is very anti-corporate in how it ultimately handles itself. I'm not going to regurgitate information on the small size of the team ranging from ex-Ubisoft devs to collaborating with SoundCloud composer Lorien Testard. I am going to mention, however, that their success is a product of having the creative liberty to seek these various talents from people with an honest passion to create something in their vision without any corporate influence. If you go to Sandfall Interactive's official page, every person on the team is not only credited to their respective roles or contribution, but you'll notice that they all have their personal favorite video games attached. It just feels super down to earth, and even better, I love that Monoko is here too. Back to the power of artistry though, if I had a nickel for every time the French produce something that is essentially a love letter to art on all fronts.
You know what? Here go 2 more for y'all. Yeah.
And maybe I'm admitting to being a normie, right? But I have to give Arcane its flowers, because if there is something Expedition 33 does in parallel to Arcane, they're both just heavily layered with artistic expression. They reflect an appreciation and refer to historical art movements throughout. Arcane is most associated with its use of visual storytelling, with Art Nouveau portraying Zahn with an organic, flowy nature, where in contrast, Art Deco is portrayed in Piltover as a means to convey themes of the renewed and the advanced. Clair Obscur is straightforward but also quite metaphorical in its usage of art movement chiaroscuro. It's the dynamic between the lightest and darkest parts of an artwork. It can be symbolic for what is displayed clearly, but more importantly, what isn't. That which lies in obscurity and in darkness is what gives clarity to the forefront of the subject. And as I've already stated, this game could not scathe the success it's proven without being as vague yet perfectly clear about its storytelling. What both of these properties place on the forefront to their unique immersive experiences is the art of music and what that brings to the table. They could not be the same without it. While Arcane uses music to either give scenes more life, to amplify fight sequences, or montages with a very AMV-esque style, Expedition 33's soundtrack is hilariously diverse too.
Old friend.
Dare I say it's life-changing not only for the audience, but the artists given the opportunity to collaborate with these projects. You could never convince me before Arcane that I would watch a show featuring David, Denzel Curry, Imagine Dragons, 21 Pilots, or Linkin Park and others, all a part of the same property. And yet, here we are. As far as the actual textility to Expedition's world, I have to say I love how they managed to stylize the human characters without a heavy reliance on being photorealistic. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was especially possible by the exaggerative and expressive facial features characters display, especially when it comes to their eyes, as they help portray a character's internal conflict in between interactions. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has made a place for itself not only in relevance to the gaming industry, but within the world of art. To me, it's nothing shy of a start to a creative renaissance within the medium. Its success is so remarkable that it sold 3.3 million copies in 33 days after its launch. You cannot make up this energy, and you're not going to see it anywhere else. In the meantime, as this game basks in its glory of success, I can't wait to see what Sandfall Interactive will do with this franchise going forward, since it's been mentioned that the universe of Clair Obscur may potentially be seeing more projects down the line. And if that isn't the case, well, I'm grateful that I was here to experience something so refreshing and grounded in the pursuit of creating something out of passion and not money. Expedition 33 is so good, in fact. It's actually made its way into Night Rain, which, by the way, if you guys have been wondering, yes, I've been loving the hell out of that game. Exhibit A. The moment you queue up and it's talking about commence expedition, boom! Get out of the head! Exhibit B. The final Night Lord tears reality mid-fight. You know who else does that? The Paintress. Get out of the head! Get out of the head! No, nobody's messing. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed the video, because if you did, and if you're new here, you might as well show a brother some love and leave a like and a sub. All in all, life imitates art. Thematically, there is much to take away from Expedition 33, so much to apply and to acknowledge in our own lives. How grief can invade our hold onto relationships, and how outlets to cope may end up doing more harm than good for yourself. What it feels like to be restrained from being able to make ends meet, which are beyond your power and in the hands of another. The flaws of our human nature. To see one truth and to deny another's. Motivated by desperation or determination. Encapsulated into the greatest expedition ever is a game that becomes a love letter to art. For those who come after.